You know that airplane metaphor of putting on your oxygen mask first before you help someone else? Mental health is no different. In order to take care of others, you have to help yourself first. But what does that look like? Take Psych Hub's Mental Health Ally certification for starters. It's 8 one-hour courses covering anything and everything, from substance use to diversity and mental health, how to help others, suicide prevention, and more. Plus, it's self-paced, so you can take it at your own schedule. Become a certified, trusted resource to come to for mental health concerns. Visit psychhub.com/learning to get started. Hi, I'm Marjorie Morrison.
And this is Patrick Kennedy.
And you are listening to the Psych Hub podcast, The Future of Mental Health. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Future of Mental Health. Today, we are here with someone near and dear to Patrick, his cousin, Anthony Shriver. A little history. Anthony's mother, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, was the founder of the Special Olympics. She pioneered the worldwide struggle for acceptance for people with intellectual disabilities, otherwise known as IDD, which is why it's no surprise that Anthony pursued his calling as an activist and founded Best Buddies International, an organization that builds friendships between people with and without IDD. Giving someone with IDD confidence and access to opportunities is a meaningful experience to all involved. Anthony and Best Buddies are making a difference in so many lives. A culture of acceptance for everybody is important, but it's especially important for those with IDD. As we know, mental health affects everyone, but creating an inclusive environment makes it that much better. This is a movement we totally stand behind at Psych Hub, similar to how we're creating our own community of certified mental health allies. Another episode of Psych Hub's The Future of Mental Health podcast starts now. Thanks, Anthony, for being here.
Pleasure. Glad to be here.
And Anthony, I'm so excited that you've joined this podcast. More often than not, when I see you on these Zooms, it's at the Best Buddies board meetings that I'm so honored to be part of, and that you dragged me into after you totally abused me for my 16 years in Congress trying to get more money for Best Buddies. So just to start off, can you finally explain to me what is Best Buddies for all of our audience members?
Well, you're on the board and you're in the leadership of the board. Do a better job than me, but no, I'm super blessed to be on the podcast. Super glad to be here joining all of you. Thank you, Patrick, for inviting me. You have been an amazing cousin. I love you to death. And you've been amazing to Best Buddies forever and ever and ever. Really happy to be on here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have been able to work at Best Buddies for 32 years. Sort of been inspired by my mom, as I think, Patrick, you were inspired by my mother so much in so many different ways. And your dad, of course, inspired by him and his commitment to service and all the work he did as a legislator and the work my mom did, founding Special Olympics and really bringing people with intellectual disabilities into our backyard in the 60s when they were completely shunned and completely isolated, treated differently, treated with no respect and dignity, and not empowered to realize their potential and their dreams and to make meaningful contributions to our country and to countries all over the world. She did it when nobody was doing it. It had no pizzazz, no cool factor. I tried to, follow her lead in so many different ways and start a program that would include and support and encourage people at the college level to reach out to people with special abilities and welcome them on to the most prestigious college campuses around the world, give them the opportunity to be socialized and integrated and included, to participate with their peers in all the activities that bring excitement and life and meaning to our lives, from going to the prom to having a date to going to a football game to walking the halls of Harvard Yard and Yale and University of Miami and UCLA, feel really included, and creating a mentoring program for people with intellectual disabilities where they could be inspired and motivated and realize that they have contributions to make to our society. So we started with a college program, and then of course we've expanded out to all different forms of academic institutions, and we have a great jobs program now where we find competitive employment for people with special abilities. We have a housing program that we started out in LA. We have a leadership academy for people with intellectual disabilities. So the times are certainly different for our population than they were in the 60s, but nevertheless, there's still a lot of work to do, and giant millions of people with special abilities all over the world that are still outside and left out. So, the work's exciting, and I feel super blessed to have been able to do it for really my entire adult career.
Well, we're both blessed, Anthony. We've been given such opportunities to promote this amazing legacy that we were given at birth. And I have been out to a number of places that your mom was instrumental in starting. And the National Institutes for Children and Human Development is named the Eunice Shriver Institute. And
Yeah.
I wanted to mention to you, it's right near our offices at Psych Hub on the Vanderbilt campus. And there's a great picture of your whole family right in the foyer there. And the reason I was so excited as well that you were on something called mental health is that too often in our bureaucracy, we silo even people with intellectual disabilities, and we end up marginalizing them again because everyone thinks that it's just a one situation of an intellectual and cognitive impairment. It's not. Also, they're not a human being with all the other multitude of mental health needs that everybody has, and which they are often denied because people kind of like expect that it's already, quote, taken care of. What you're doing to include people really is a mental health solution for them. You are after it because it's the spirit of human dignity, that we're all in this together. We're all have the spark of divinity and are all God's children. But, it has a very fundamental implication for their mental health, which otherwise can be ignored by all the other IDD type of systems of care, so to speak, on the federal and state level.
Yeah. Well, I think you're 100% right. I mean, I think the challenge is to get over just the people looking at their intellectual developmental disability and getting into realizing the mental health issues that all of our participants have. And as they become more integrated, included, and as they participate in social activities and as they participate in the workforce, we're seeing those issues show or rear their heads in a big way. And with all due respect, we're not really that equipped to manage it because we've been struggling and focusing so much just on the intellectual disabilities. We've got now buddies that, have behavioral issues when they get to the job place. And it's because, their father took off from the mother when they were 5 years of age and they have no father figure in their household. And, they have all the issues revolving around all that. And then they get to the job site, everybody thinks, hey, we're helping someone that, who's has neurodiversity or intellectual disabilities. And we haven't even begun really to deal with all the complexities that all of us have, even at all the staff at Best Buddies has, because they've got it too. And now we're dealing with that whole world. And that was they never even given an opportunity to showcase that, good or bad, to showcase that. And we don't honestly have a whole program or an initiative or really know how to deal with that because it's not my expertise, to be honest with you. But the more they become integrated, you're 100% right, the more that issue is becoming a giant issue for our population. And, I don't have the answer for that. And I think it's a whole nother big monster challenge for us to deal with. And I guess, Honorable, you're going to have to figure that out.
Well, I'm serious. We can do this, Anthony. Honestly, I think it fits so well with Best Buddies jobs program and the housing program and your international reach. And the brand that our family has through Special Olympics with all the activists around the world. Psych Hub, what we do is we take that content of best practices, how to train the trainers, how to address situations in the workplace or in the doctor's office or in the therapist's office or in your family or in your own life. We target the videos at Psych Hub to the audience and help try to instruct people as to what to make of this behemoth system of mental health, and then how to integrate themselves into the best treatment, and then how do we improve the quality of care of those who are providing the treatment. And it goes on. And in this whole space, there's so much illiteracy. And, to your point, this is something that we're all contending with. It's like the Wild West. And I really am excited by the fact that I think we need to, even for Special Olympics, when we were both out at Dubai for the 50th anniversary of the International Special Olympics, 190 plus countries participating. It's just shocking to think of all the incredible progress that's been made over so many years. So it shows us what's possible. But how do you train the trainers? So you've got the Healthy Athletes program, right? How do we do a better incorporation of screening of their mental health conditions within that? There is so much to do, but I think that Psych Hub could help partner with governments that you work with, and I know you travel around the world setting up best buddies in so many other countries, to allow them to have the competency to know what the needs are of the buddies, so to speak, in the school place, in the workplace, and so forth. Because I think people are willing to take it on. They just don't. They don't have the script. It's like we don't have the script when we're born. We were just told to throw it in and get it going. And now we're fathers and we're wondering who gave us the script here, and you make do. But the idea here is we want to try to help provide some of this, education.
It's funny though, because some of these buddies that we have now that are participating in some of our activities, when people are so shocked because when they kind of quote act like us, or they come to an event and we have buddies now that are getting drunk at our events, and we have buddies that are acting inappropriately in the jobs place. That's all goes back to mental health. That has nothing to do with their intellectual development or disability. And we just go, oh, well, they can't come to the party anymore because they got wasted and they acted inappropriately and they embarrassed the organization. That's what the staff said. But what you say is that it really goes back to their mental health, just like you and me used to drink all the time. It goes back to why were we drinking all the time? Why were we behaving that way? It has to do with our mental health, right?
That's right.
So we don't know what to, it's really interesting that you say, I haven't really thought of it. I'm embarrassed to say, but it should be a whole new thing that we do at Best Buddies and a whole new real program that we do at Best Buddies. And it's clearly not my expertise and I don't have the knowledge. So if you're willing to be hired here, I can hire you my staff and make my staff bigger and you can run it honorable.
Listen, we can get it sponsored. We can get it sponsored, baby.
These kinds of things are so, I think they're huge, not only with our staff, as we've talked to you about trying to help our staff, which I'm committed to, because we have obviously a whole slew of issues just with our personnel, which is normal, I guess. But we haven't dealt with the buddies. So if anything, this whole podcast, if we can leave and come up with a plan, or I can figure out a better way to focus on that.
I have to tell you, Anthony, it's just I've been along for this ride and this company getting started, and the need out there is so great. What you're explaining is really what everybody's telling us. Like they just don't have the how-to.
Anthony, I think when you think about now you're recognizing the mental health issues, I think that's just a natural progression of where things are. It's not that Best Buddies, you did such great work in reducing the stigma and really elevating. I mean, just listening to, I've never heard it, but having you call it special abilities, I just love that. I mean, what a beautiful way to use words. So much of this is because of all the great work that now it's like peeling back the onion. Now you're able to address some of these deeper issues that before you couldn't, because you just had to deal with the basic, getting people employment. And so, I mean, I think the first step is as we always say, and I'm a therapist by trade, is asking for help, right? The first step is knowing you need help. So you're great on phase one. But we have our mental health ally certification. It's 8 modules. We actually have several folks at Best Buddies that are going through a pilot of it right now. So we're like one step ahead. Thanks to you. You organized it. That one covers diversity, bias, substance use, suicide, safety planning, how to talk to someone about if there might be suicidal, how to do motivational interviewing, and then an overview. What I want to hear about, what I would love to hear about is Patrick and I, we talk a lot about sense of purpose and mental wellness, really. So on the scale of just what makes people feel healthy and happy and connected. And so much of that is this sense of purpose. And I'd love to talk a little bit about what volunteering does and how a sense of purpose gives a benefit to both sides.
Well, it goes back, and Patrick and I speak the same language. I mean, I think it goes back to the dignity and the opportunity to serve. And I think that comes, at least for me, from, my faith. And I think, when you follow, I mean, we have all these programs and, all this training, but for me, it also gets pretty basic if you go back to your faith and you follow the message of Jesus Christ and what he calls us to do and how he calls us to live. That very often, if you have the guts or the ability to actually do it, which I don't, because I obviously fall short on a constant basis. I think you have a life full of purpose and a life that's full of service, and because that's the challenge that he puts before all of us, and the joy that all of us can serve, and how you feel when you give of yourself and you give of your time and you give of your energy and you give of your treasure. To me, it's the most rewarding thing you can do with your life, which is why it's so addictive and why Patrick continues to do it, and I do it, and so many people in our family do it. And I think everybody always congratulates everybody in the family because so many people are doing it. But to me, once you do it, it's pretty hard to go back and go, hey, now I want to go, work in a law firm or an accounting firm. Not that those are bad professions, but your sense of value and contribution and purpose in a meaningful life, I think it's hard to match up any career to what we do. And because I think it moves your soul. And I think that's what we're finding with our volunteers and for our participants. I think, they become life-changing experiences. I mean, we have college students that volunteer, high school students, and then they want to go off and go in the line of service for the rest of their career. And they want to become, teachers, or they want to become agents of change, or they want to start their own nonprofits. And they don't want to go work at Goldman Sachs and make tons of money and grind and work 16 hours a day to make money. And not, again, someone's got to do that, and I get it, and it's valuable. But I think it's, it's hard to describe unless you've done it. And I think that so many people have done it and have the ability to do it. So I'm not saying, Patrick or I are special in any way. It's just that that's a great gift. And I think to share that with young people in high school or middle school or at the university level, the way that Patrick and I were exposed to it when we were really little kids, is a great gift to be able to give to young people. And they learn it through Best Buddies. I feel like I'm lucky to be able to share it in hopes that they'll get hooked for life.
You have used your talents and abilities in getting the members of Goldman Sachs and all these big law firms and accounting firms to be doing these bike rides for the buddies. You've managed to bring in the private sector in a huge way and really stimulate a culture change in the business. Because you've basically gotten them exposed to the buddies program. They end up hiring buddies, and it takes off from there. You're describing a movement. It's not just a transactional thing, and so it's exciting because I think you had done a good job at getting those folks who wouldn't otherwise be excited about this excited just because you're good at getting people fired up for it. And that, that's a unique ability that you've been given, in the business that I went into, which was our family foray into elective office. Your abilities translate very well into success in that life, but you're doing that same type of evangelizing instead of in kind of elective office for a particular cause, really in the private sector, because you've managed to help organize really funding streams to stand this whole process up. Because let's not make this seem so romantic. I've been on the board meetings. It's just a lot of hard work. I don't want people to be taken away saying, oh, well, it's all the fun stuff, because to get this going takes a lot of logistical and financial effort, and you've done that because of your commitment, and that's what shows your commitment. As you said, it's easy to do the fun stuff, but you don't get to do the fun stuff unless you do the hard work. And
Right.
And I think everybody acknowledges that you've got the ability to do both, and that's what makes this whole process work. So
I think the other, thank you, very sweet. I think the other thing is, I always view it, I feel like culture is everything. And I really believe culture is everything. And building a culture of kindness and a culture of giving back and a culture of loving and camaraderie and excitement and diversity and inclusion, I think is super attractive for people to join. And I think in their core, most people want to be part of something. big and exciting and unique and different. And I think if you can continue to kind of reinvent yourself on an ongoing basis, I think you continue to attract new energy and new spirit to the culture. But you got to build a good culture, I think. And I think a culture of acceptance is key. And which is why, like, we've gone into the foray of sort of the for-profit business by building out these Best Buddies Rosetta coffee shops where, you know, people with intellectual disabilities get jobs, and we provide a first-class product, and cyclists can come and hang out and feel the Best Buddies culture alive and well, and meet our participants and see them working, and, you know, get a great pastry and get a great coffee and get great pizza, and have the money go back to our organization so that we're not, you know, we don't have our hand out. We're not raising money through the traditional sources of revenue. I think that gets people excited, and they shows that, you know, we're trying to develop something that's unique and different and new. And I think people want to be involved in that kind of a cultural experience. And I think, you know, it's a good, unique way to expose them to our population. So I think, you know, it's, you keep grinding away, but unless you love it, unless you have a great time doing it, you know, obviously you don't stick with it. So I think, you know, finding your passion is obviously huge, and try to expose young people to that.
Want to learn more about substance use? Maybe it's something you're silently experiencing, or you have a loved one who needs help. Check out Psych Hub's Mental Health Ally certification. We have a 1-hour course dedicated to substance use awareness that covers overdose warning signs and withdrawal, and resources to get help. It's only $15. Or you can complete the entire Mental Health Ally certification for just $99. Visit psychhub.com/learning to get started. I love that, especially because if you get volunteers in high school and college, then they're learning about a lifetime of volunteering and contributing and giving back. And you might lose them after college, but, you know, who knows, like you said, starting nonprofits, moving on to different things.
Lawyers. I mean, we've had people that, you know, like, who were in the school program when I was in college that now have big jobs and are making lots of money and work at big companies, and they hire our participants. So, you know, there's a role for everybody at Best Buddies, which is great. So if you want to be a mentor, great. If you want to be an employer, great. You know, if you want to go, you know, buy coffee at our coffee shop, great. If you want to, you know, be a franchisee of ours and start up our program and, you know, our business model in another city, great. So, I mean, I think there's so many different ways that everybody can participate and contribute and feel included that, you know, we're lucky to offer so many different types of activations.
And can you talk a little bit about the buddies as well? Because we all know that volunteering is part of mental wellness, connectedness, and all the things that make us happy at the core. And both of you are leading by example on that. And I have no doubt, I mean, there's just hundreds of thousands of people that are benefiting from the great work that you do. But I think that there's really something there for the buddies as well. And, you know, whether it's friendship, whether it's something to look forward to, that also is part of the protective factor for, you know, living a mentally healthy life.
You know, it's constant. I mean, I got one this morning. You know, a big sponsor of ours is this thing called Teddy's Peanut Butter. That's a local family business out of Boston. But they distribute their products now all over the East Coast, and they're expanding out in California, and they have our logo on the jar, and they give a percentage of every a jar of peanut butter sold to Best Buddies. And, you know, this morning I wake up before I go on my ride super early, and, you know, I get an email, Patrick, I'm going to send it out to the board. It's great. And it's, you know, a buddy sending the owner of Teddy's Peanut Butter a thank you letter for them supporting Best Buddies and for making great peanut butter and for giving money back so that people like her can feel included and have a friendship and be part of the Cornell Best Buddies chapter in upstate New York. And her, and I don't even know who she is. I don't know anything about it. I didn't prompt her to do it. I have no idea how it even happened. Thanking, you know, a corporate kind of tycoon, because Teddy's Peanut Butter is a pretty big company, for giving back to her so that she can have a friend and that she can feel included and that she counts and that she matters. You know, making the buddies feel, one, that they are included in something and they're included in a program that involves Cornell University, which is one of the great institutions of learning in the world, Ivy League, to have them feel that they've gotten such a benefit that they figure out a way to write a handwritten letter to the CEO of Teddy's Peanut Butter on their own and thanking them to giving them this gift of a Best Buddies program at Cornell University. I don't know, to me, it obviously makes my week feel great. It makes me wake up and go, wow, I'm really lucky to be doing this job. And wow, how blessed I am to read this note from a buddy handwritten to this guy. To me, to give people with intellectual disabilities a sense of confidence and the sense of feeling included, and that they have the ability and that they count and that they can send a letter like that, and that they are so grateful for just being part of a chapter and having a friend at Cornell University. I don't know. To me, that's, as the priest was saying in his sermon today, life goes by like, it's gone, right? And that's what he said at the giving his sermon. It really goes that fast. So that to be able to do something and get a letter like that, and to feel like, it's having such a huge impact on a young person's life, and to know that, I'm playing a little role in it and Patrick's playing a little role in it. And by you even being interested in it now, playing a role in it, and all of us together, that when our light blinks by like that, we did something that maybe made someone feel a little bit better about themselves, and they count and they matter. So that's a letter I got this morning. I have lots of them from my own buddies, myself, and the impact it's had on their life.
Anthony, would you talk a little bit about how you've had your own journey of recognizing the fragility of life and the kind of spiritual dimension in life? Because we, kind of got the handbook in our family of to run through the motions. But of course, it's up to us to really connect that in our own way, in our own narrative to our lives, so that we can kind of make meaning out of it. I've known you obviously forever, and I think you're just so alive and present, and your contagious kind of spirit to get people feeling part of is what makes you so successful. So tell us a little bit about, because you just don't get that. It's not, some of it can be inherited, but a big part of it, I think, comes from your own life's learnings and awarenesses, and through pain too, because we know that's the only way we gain real insight and growth. I don't know if you'd be willing to talk a little bit about what has been helpful to you to gain that kind of spiritual perspective you just spoke about.
Right. Well, first, just so that it doesn't seem like it's not real. I struggle with it for sure. And, I struggle with my career. I struggle with, what am I doing? Am I contributing in a real way? Am I doing enough? What's my connection to God, and what's my faith like? Am I going to church enough? Is once a week enough? I struggle with, continuing to try to find my energy level and be passionate and excited when I see new people and be motivated. So I think, I read sometimes these books, and I read about people, and I listen to these shows, and I think it paints to young people sometimes an artificial picture that, it's all rosy and perfect. And I just want to make sure I'm 100% clear, you and I, we struggle like everybody else. And I'm sure you have your moments and I have my moments. And, I don't want to get out of my bed, and I don't want to go get on the bike, and I want to go to another event. I don't want to get on the plane, and all the things that, are challenging to, like, all of us are challenged with. So I definitely have that. So I just want to say that as a disclaimer, because I don't want to misrepresent that, my life's perfect in any shape, form, or fashion, because it's not. I struggle like everybody else. I think like you again, Patrick, I feel like, the only way to, even get out of bed and keep going at it, and to be able to find my way and chart my course is through my, my faith and my connection to God, because otherwise it all seems kind of like meaningless, because as we both know now, we're not so young, and, life does go by in the blink, as the guy said this weekend, which really resonated with me. And if you're not doing something that's bigger than yourself, or there's not a connection to a higher being, I don't know what you're doing other than kind of wandering through, your 60 years or 40 years or 20 years. And as you know, even in the family, everybody gets a different time allotment, and who knows what ours is. So, trying to keep reminding myself, of my connection to my faith, the pain and the suffering is a prerequisite to getting to paradise. And I find that, even our own life, getting through that and recognizing that brings you a whole nother new level of calm and kindness and peace and a sense of steadiness, I think. So I'm grateful for the suffering that we've dealt with, because I think it's brought us to where we are today, which is different people than we were when we were 25 or 35 or 45, for sure, at least for me. I feel like, in a lot of ways that, your faith is something you got to stay after every single day. I know you do it your way, but I don't know how anybody really, can keep their head screwed on right, or can get out of bed or do their job and stay at it week after week, keep their family together and your children, down the straight and narrow, unless you're, humbly walk before your creator and remind yourself all the day to surrender and surrender and surrender. I mean, myself is, the more you surrender, the more joy comes into your life. And I know it's scary and I get scared sometimes with it, but boy, every time I do more, somehow some incredible thing happens to me or some blessing comes my way that I never dreamed possible. I had no idea why this keeps happening, why it keeps doing better. And the more I surrender, the more it happens. So if there's ever, a message from my perspective, it's, surrender, 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 and your joy will be elevated to a level that you never dreamed possible. The more you let go, the more comes your way. So I don't know, that's a kind of a roundabout thing, and I'm not sure that's completely clear, but I think, I keep trying to, through all the action and the harassment and the energy, when I step away and, it settles, I keep trying to remind myself that that's the only way forward. And if you do that, somehow the energy will come and somehow the joy will remain. And if you're joyful and you're happy, I think, that will come out. People will feel that.
Well, I will tell you, the model that you set for your kids and, for people you don't think pay attention or see it is really powerful. You do the family meals together. That's shouldn't be taken for granted. We're all so busy. Everybody's got their agendas and their busy lives. You have your kids together with you at mealtime wherever possible. You spend an incredible amount of time, for as busy as you are, with your children. And fundamentally at the end of the day, that's what we have. And that's our legacy. We think about trying to do big things, but building strong kids who are able to withstand the stresses that will all come their way is an investment in them. But you can't, there's no ROI. It's not, you're living it out, is what I'm saying, in a different way, because it'd be very tempting to, as you said, kind of cash in on your time, which has great value, in other ways. These ways no one else can see but you. Like, you live with it. Your family can see it. But that's a big faith in a culture that puts the premium on how much do you see on the outside. I can tell the people who are listening how blown away I am by how much you do that is clearly not designed for public or anyone else's consumption, but the reality of what you have with your family. So just to.
Because you say the ROI, I think the ROI when you give to your kids, the ROI is the greatest ROI ever. I was looking at this guy who's pitching me some deal actually yesterday too, and he's like, I'm focused on the ROI. Have you seen the ROI? Look at that. That's really what my whole, the ROI is 89% on this deal. That's an incredible ROI. But as you know, that ROI gives you nothing, right? Zero on the end of the day. That's a zero ROI if that's where you're getting your ROI. You get your ROI being with your kids, even though they're dropping their gloves and it's driving you crazy and they forget their boot. And I just was doing it with Joey the other day. I get all the way to the base of the mountain. He goes, I left my gloves in the car. It's just like, it's like incredible, right?
Right.
But, you're like sitting there, you're like, okay, patience, here we go. The guy talked about it a month and a half ago, how the gift of patience that God gives you. So I'm sitting there, here we are. I'm being patient. I'm not going to get on the mountain. I'm not going to get the first run, So anyway, I mean, I just feel like those kinds of moments that you get with, your incredible brood. I mean, you've got so many kids too that, that's, to me, it's the greatest ROI that ever existed. It's way better than 89%.
Amen. Anthony, in recovery, we have the
what do you have? Yeah,
we have the character defects. So it's that we use commonly described character defects from the Bible: pride, anger, envy, greed, lust, gluttony, sloth. And these have been around from the beginning, right?
Yeah, of course.
Right. And you could look at it as a religious thing, like because it was in the Bible, or you could look at it as, well, human beings have been grappling with these same challenges from the beginning of time, and
right.
They got around to figuring out that maybe if you do these sins, it's not the way to the salvation. It's not the way to what we can have heaven on earth with the love that God has given us, and
all that,
and all of that's both here and beyond. So I think that, in recovery, we focus on those things because they take us away from our true purpose.
That makes a lot of sense. Have you found it more now than before, or has this been consistent your whole life?
I mean, I grew up pretty with it. My parents were both big followers, and we went, I grew up going to church and altar serving, all those types of things. I mean, I think can get richer, a little bit more challenging at times, but I've been Catholic high school, Jesuit college, and sort of been at it pretty much my whole life. But I've certainly lost my way a little bit here and there, and you keep going back. But which is why I find that I don't know how people do it without it. Honestly, I don't know how they do it. And my dad, he always had a great line. It's like, the reason I go to mass, I would ask him when I was young, Daddy, why do you go to mass every day? He says, if I didn't go to mass every day, I'd turn out to be a goddamn disaster. He used to say it like that. I mean, I'm so weak. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. If I didn't go to church, I would be a goddamn disaster. So, I mean, it was kind of like him saying to me and showing how he felt so vulnerable and so weak and lost, and that he was willing to admit that and acknowledge that, and that his only chance to amount to anything and to have anything organizing together was to go in there and get on his knees and go, you know what? I have no idea what I'm doing. Please tell me what to do and listen. So, I mean, I don't know. It's to me, it was always a good example to see him acknowledging his weakness. And especially for a guy that I saw as, very successful and powerful and accomplished and recognized and, very much a giant in many of his careers, that he would say, I can't amount to a crap if I don't get in there and get on my knees and figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do today.
So that humility is the answer.
Yeah.
And I was just I had one of our cousins call me over the holidays to ask me to hook their friend up with some treatment. And I said, I'll send you the list of 3 or 4 people. You can have the family call them and get an idea as to what they want for their child. And Chris said, that's great. So I went ahead and called them, right, to tell them, hey, by the way, you might get this call. I gave your number. Just be ready. And it's amazing. In the course of that, I had great reconnections with all those people. It's like, I try to be helpful. All of a sudden, I'm the beneficiary because I got reconnected with all those people. And I have enough insight today to know that with God, giving me deliverance. So I talked to one of them and they said, and they talked about how this person is someone who's relapsed over and over again. And I can identify with that. I relapsed and went to multiple rehabs. And now come this February 22nd, one day at a time, I'll have 10 years of uninterrupted continuous sobriety from drugs and alcohol. Yes, I was talking to one of these guys and he said to me, well, Patrick, he clearly doesn't have any humility. And I thought to myself, again, in my head, it wasn't about him. It was that he felt I had enough of it that he could tell me that.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, All of a sudden, I thought to myself, I must be coming along, because the guy like this would not have said that if he didn't think he was talking to a brother. But, these are the spiritual things that we get, and we get them throughout the day. Like you said, it gets better and better. In recovery, we call it, it's beyond your wildest dreams. Like, I couldn't imagine 10 years ago, left Congress, left a big title, left a big attention and ego and all the rest. I'd be having the best time of my life. And, because of COVID, all the challenges, I now have an intimacy with my kids I never would have otherwise had, because I'd be going on that plane ride every 3 or 4 days. So, and then I'm in a place where I can be of service, where all of my experience working my way through life and not having a clue and using drugs and alcohol to help me cope has given me an experience that is actually valuable to others who right now, because of COVID and who don't have recovery, have no ideas to how to navigate. And I can help use my experience to help them and make a living at the same time. I mean, who could have imagined, right? I could never have made this up. People are saying this and that today. And I think to myself, never could have made this up. There was some other thing was going on in my life. I could never have planned this out. So I definitely have.
That's why they call it God's plan.
God's plan. My plan didn't work, Anthony. I tried to force that plan, and
doesn't work.
For very long. It works for a little while sometimes, but then eventually it will run out on you.
Long-term strategy. That's
not
sure.
long-term.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel that way for Psych Hub. I mean, I think to myself how lucky we are that it is just, Patrick, when we mapped it out on a napkin, X amount of years ago, and here we are. So think about that all the time, all the good that's surrounding this organization. I think about that a lot, and I believe a lot in karma too. That just so this was really an unexpected dialogue, but it was really special, and I really appreciate both of you, your honesty and your openness, and just your willingness to just kind of share what works for you and why it works, and I really think it's inspirational to me, and I think it's inspirational to so many. So thank you.
And hopefully we can circle back and work more collaboratively together going forward. Be a huge help for us. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And
thanks, Honorable.
You bet.
Always.
Got to go out there, earn the big bucks, pay my dues, baby.
Get it.
What's cracking, Hope Nation? It's your friendly neighborhood Kevin Hines, and here is your Psych Hub brain health tip of the week. Be truthful. Honesty is the best policy. Be honest in your relationships so they can be healthy and not filled with deceit or fear. Be honest in therapy so you can grow as a person. And be honest about your pain, because a pain shared is a pain halved. Subscribe to my YouTube channel right up there, and Psych Hub's YouTube channel for self-care tips and actionable mental health advice. I recommend it.
As always, thank you for listening to our podcast.
If you enjoyed the show, drop us a review.
If you haven't already, subscribe to our podcast for the latest episodes.
For the latest insights, check us out at psychhub.com.
Want to learn more about substance use? Maybe it's something you're silently experiencing, or you have a loved one who needs help. Check out Psych Hub's Mental Health Ally certification. We have a 1-hour course dedicated to substance use awareness that covers overdose warning signs and withdrawal, and resources to get help. It's only $15. Or you can complete the entire Mental Health Ally certification for just $99. Visit psychhub.com/learning to get started.